different things that you are. I taught many different topics related to English literature, as well as creative writing, debating, and so on. So it's really important for me to establish these things at the beginning, to say that I'm a newcomer to digital humanities, and my goal in this presentation is to show you and share with you what I think are some of the untapped possibilities and exciting potentials of digital humanities, research methods, and technologies. I will be specifically focusing on 4 of those methods, using my pedagogical lens as faculty from the English department to show you how you yourself can begin to tinker and eventually collaborate with colleagues across institutions and disciplines to integrate digital humanities research methodologies into your teaching and your scholarship. So I'm not going to go through this. It's in the description of the session. And please excuse me if some of my slides are too dense. It's because I'm used to putting whole paragraphs and going through them with my students to textually analyze them and so on. So I'm trying my best not to be too dense and not to be too fast. If any of these methods of analysis or any of these tools or technologies that belong to the world of digital humanities are things that fit your trajectory, fit your teaching plans, I'm sure CLT will be happy to look at your questions, and maybe in the future, hopefully, we can have more meetings and more detailed sessions. So each of these tools, each of these methods take me like a month or 2 sometimes to cover with students. So please bear with me, okay? All right, so I'm going to start by a definition. What is the concept of digital humanities? Although it's a plural word, but I look at it as a singular term. It should be noted that it's not new. Although it could be new in our area, in our region. I come from Syria. I worked in Lebanon. Now I'm in the south of Russia and moved between Moscow and Russia. It might be new to the MENA region, to North Africa, but it's been there for decades. The merging between humanities and computing studies. Okay, if you look at this website, which is called What is Digital Humanities? It's actually the collection of tweets collected between 2009 and 2014, where people would tweet what they believe is digital humanities. You'd look at, I tried to put what are similar definitions, but you look at the fact that it's very diverse. People look at digital humanities from their research point of view and their perspective, and it's maybe to its advantage or maybe not. That doesn't have a specific definition. Okay, why digital humanities in the 20th century? Because we no longer produce our scholarly discourse in printed matter, right? And we no longer teach just for our students. We actually engage a wider public. And when we do projects, we crowdsource, we bring people from the public into our scholarship, into our classroom and our students. And we need, as humanists and as scholars, we need to engage with the evolving technologies. And with the advent now, with the challenges that AI is posing, we cannot keep our eyes closed. So what's important here is that the emerging technologies have made a lot of disciplines evolve to reinvent and redirect their approaches and practices. And also collaboration is now pertinent across disciplines and institutional roles. What do I mean by institutional roles? These projects, as you will see, do not just have the primary investigator. There's no longer this idea of the sage, the guru, and all the others, under him. No, we are all one community. We are one group. A librarian, a technologist could be very important for your project and for your publication and for the development of your thinking. So it's collaborative. When we talk about digital humanities, you realize if you are from the humanities that there's some strange words. So the discourse has to change. I'll be saying digital methods of analysis. I never use that when I taught a poem or I taught a novel or a play. We say temporal, textual, spatial network analysis. This could be something familiar to people in the sciences, but as a faculty from the literature section, it's new. We say words like click, voyant, antconc, topotext, palladio, neatline. We say structured data, semi-structured data, unstructured. So you have to get used to this jargon, and you have to read what do they really mean, because we may be meaning different things through the same word, which is one of the problems of collaboration with people from other disciplines. Finding the common language is sometimes very, very challenging. Is digital humanities a contradiction in term? DH people say data, but we never expect that data would mean a poem. We never expected that a picture in my family album will be called a data set, or it belongs to a data set. So it's a new mindset. It's very exciting. And the conversation across disciplines is very invigorating to you, to your students, and to the public and the readers of your research. So why would people take the leap? Why would people who are used to teaching philosophy and teaching history in a specific way take the challenge? Because it is a challenge. You can get, like at the beginning you saw, I got stuck with sharing this screen or sharing part of my screen, but you just have to take it and accept that we are all together towards one goal, which is an exchange of ideas and discussions. So why? Because when you enter the world of computing studies, you allow yourself to see something new. You look at new text in a different way. And hopefully, by looking at text in a different way, your teaching changes, and we teach what we write, and we publish on what we teach. Professionally, it opens the four walls of your classroom, where you and your students can have a digital persona. You live online, and you belong to communities from different walks of life, from different institutions, that can give you something really interesting you never thought about when you're looking at your experiment, whether you're in biology, the data and how you're presenting it, and so on. And more importantly, when you're in the humanities, you don't have at the end a research paper that's published in print, but you have a product, and a product which is digital, but the process towards publishing that product is the story that you do in your research and your teaching. If we look at the manifesto, the second manifesto, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating words, but I'm just trying to move you slowly into what I'm going to be talking about later. So print is no longer the exclusive or normative medium in which knowledge is produced, and instead multimedia has to be part of what you're producing and showing. Digital tools and techniques and media have changed the way our knowledge is produced and disseminated in both arts, human and social sciences. These are core values that are really important, and once you teach them to your students and once you adapt them with your colleagues, the dynamics of the collaboration really changes. We need to know what collaboration is, and collaboration is very challenging. We need to know what interdisciplinary studies are. We need to know that research is iterative. We are open and transparent. We publish our workshops on our website, and we invite people to read them, because I believe in open education and we believe in transparency. I know students pay a lot of money to come to your university, but still, if you want to be part of the collective community out there, these are concepts to think about. We value experimentation. I may be struggling with an idea, but the fact that I'm continuing to experiment and changing the way I have set the parameters of my research is very important. We use technologies, we use computer-assisted methods, and we know that computers are much faster than us, and they don't forget. And we know that our work is public-facing, and I repeated this before. We engage the community, And more importantly, we're online 24 hours, 7 days a week. So this is the Orientalist painting that I started with. And to me, it's very inspiring. Why? And not because I come from the Orient or from Syria, but because it shows you that this is a painting of a Mamluk mosque where there were different communities. There was the madrasa, the school, there was the hospital, and there was the mosque. At the same time, there was the market. So all these things combined together, I think, represent the spirit of collaboration in digital humanities. Now, which method am I going to choose? It depends on what your data is, what fits your course, what fits your publication and your career, because we all want to be promoted, of course, and we all look to publish in really important journals. So these are things we decide on after we sample the research methods. And then what is the learning curve? How much time do you have to learn the technology or teach it to your students or to people in your group? That's why it's good to bring the computer experts, because they save you a lot of time and deal with a lot of hiccups that you may encounter. And also when you're choosing a digital platform or a digital tool, it may have some limitations. It has advantages, but it also has some limitations. And most importantly, what is your budget? So today I'm going to show you really expensive projects and at the same time show you open access and free applications that I myself used in my classroom. Okay? So temporal analysis is the first method. And I'll be sharing these slides with you. The first one took thousands of hours of work, and I'm sure hundreds and thousands of dollars, where it would, using a linear way, put how things appeared in cartography, and it linked to statistical graphics, as well as online communities that work in the field. The project that my students did was on C.S. Lewis, the Narnia novels, and we used Timeline.js, which is free. And John Cabot University also used it to show their 50th anniversary. If we have time at the end, I'll show you. In textual analysis, and I'm sure there are faculty at FCC who know how to use Voyant, Palladio. Stylometry is a bit more complicated, but not impossible to learn. And then Gephi. In spatial analysis, which is basically digital mapping, there are large projects like Mapping Literary London, which shows like 47 authors and the map and the names and locations of places that appear in their diaries, in their novels, in their poems across genres. So you click on that word or that location, and it shows you what Virginia Woolf wrote about that location, and it takes you to the novel or to the letter or so on. Mapping Dubliners is the most beautiful one I like because it's on a WordPress site where you don't only put and publish your scholarship and then your digital map, but you also allow students to put blogs so that people all over the world, if they find something new about locations of James Joyce Dubliners, then they can blog and it will be posted on that website, and the project grows. So when you're looking at digital humanities, don't look at assignments or publications for the duration of one semester or two, but think in actually the idea that this can live and grow in your course semester after the other. With each new batch of students, you can investigate something new and your publication will grow. So temporal analysis, what does it mean? It means breaking information into parts so that you can understand impact of time and space on perspective, and you identify trends. You look, for example, we all know if you're reading the Norton Anthology or any anthology, that you have at the beginning or at the end of the book a timeline which shows years and important events, whether in politics or in science, inventions, publications, they're all charted out. Digital timelines allow you to do these in an interactive way where you can put clips from YouTube, you can put tweets, you can put your own lecture digitized and posted on YouTube, and you can link to external sources like online papers and so on. So you can explore trends. So this belongs to history. It also belongs to any discipline. If you want to survey a development of a theory, a development of an application, um, it can also be used for your literature review. If you want to look at which publication appeared first, and then you can trace ideas, because we know that research does not start from zero. Research builds on what is before it and what comes after it. So digital timelines are very important in that they can allow you to chart things and see the impact of time collaboratively and with people from different disciplines. Okay, so I almost touched on all of these points, but what I want to tell you is once you visualize things linearly, something happens and you start thinking of new ways and new paths to push your research. Or you'd say, no, this is not working for me. I want to go back. I don't want to follow a linear. I want to follow, let's say, a stream of consciousness approach, or I want to follow a nonlinear approach. I have students who once put their CVs on a timeline, digital timeline, and showed it to the people who were interviewing them. Okay, these are different platforms. Timeline.js is the one that I use in my classroom because it's the easiest. And be careful. Some of the disadvantages is that this platform sometimes can be frozen. And so if you're planning to give a presentation or your students give a presentation, they won't be able to do that. So always ask the digital experts in your university if they can afford an Omeka. If they can afford another platform, then that's the way to go forward. The second method is textual analysis, and we all use textual analysis from the day we went to school because it means close reading. You close read a text in literature, you close read a text in geography, in science. When you're reading a chapter, you're close reading, you're analyzing the words, and you're connecting ideas. And we cannot ignore close reading. We cannot say, I'm going to use technology to get rid of close reading. However, for example, this is just a funny example. I love limericks. When you're close reading a poem, you look at what the title means, what are the keywords, what's the punctuation, the figurative language, why do we have illustrations? Edward Lear was a painter, poet, and so on. And you look at these formal. However, there's another way of reading which is called distant reading, where you can put hundreds and thousands of texts. Okay? Why? Because you want to look at what's common between these plays. What is the closest way? Who published as a novelist closest to dramatists? Okay? These are just simplified ways of looking at this. But you look at visualizations, and maybe this visualization leads to another. Actually, the guy who found out that Donald Trump's wife was plagiarizing Michelle Obama was a stylometrist. He compared the speech and found that most of it came and was plagiarized from another speaker. If you have a paper who you don't know who published, or you have a book that was translated, right? You can compare by using this, which style is it closest to, and so on. So it's really important that you use these to complement each other. I'm not calling for, getting rid of ways of looking at a text, and sometimes we stay with a text for 2 or 3 classes. But I'm saying give the chance for a text you have not read. So if I'm writing something about Victorian literature, I might have not read every single text that was published about Victorian literature. So why not use computers to help me see patterns of words and then go and read closely those sections and so on. So quantitative and qualitative approaches to text, whether they're in literature or any other field, are very useful. However, this is what I do. I start with a distant reading just to get inspired. I do the close reading. I don't know if you did this at the university. I still do it, where we write notes and we analyze, and then we connect characters or connect themes and leitmotifs. And then I go back to another test of distant reading. Is there something new? Is there something interesting and surprising? If you're getting results that you already know, then you're wasting your time. You have to change the method or change the application or the way you look at things. We have important people who published, who worked, sorry, in the field of distant reading. And the first one was a poet and a teacher of poetry. And then we have a Jesuit priest who was the first person to create a CD to index Thomas Aquinas's works and produce CD-ROMs. It took him 30 years to do that. And we have the famous Franco Moretti. Unfortunately, their sexual assault, something kind of things against him, and people decide not to put him in their syllabus. But I don't know. I think what he did was very important. In distant reading, you don't get paragraphs, you get graphs. And it's your job to interpret these graphs and show how truthful they are to your readers. So this is Hamlet, the structure of Hamlet in a network. Okay? Our characters are interacting, and every time they interact, there's a connection. Also, these are some open access tools. They are free. Ngram starts from the Google Book project, where they decided to scan every book. Once you have a digitized book, there's so many things you can do with it. EBO Ngram is the early print lab. It's also free, and you can experiment with phrases. Where did they appear? Did offensive words change over time? Did a word develop? Was that a word used in books and publications before? When did the word appear? And a lot of exciting possibilities. There's CLIC, which is corpus linguistics in context. I love it because it's got Dickens novels, it's got 19th century books, it's got children's literature, and it's got African American writers. Plus, if you are really attached to a corpus, you can actually send them a request and they will upload it. And what you can do is you look at words, and then you can click on the concordance, which shows you a word and like a sentence after it or a sentence before it, and go exactly to that text and read the paragraph, and you read the word in context. It's very important to not just look at words superficially, but to use the computer to locate them, and then you go into the deeper analysis. Voyant is wonderful because it shows you different visualizations. And there's something to do with visualizations and colors that bring some kind, they reactivate the way you look at things. So whether the text that you are uploading are literature, or you want to start a literature review, you can upload these texts and it'll show you trends in words across a number of books. It can show you word clouds, where the largest would be the most frequently used. And you can change this, you can take out words from your word list and look for the lesser used words. And the important thing is when there's a surprise, and a surprise means new research. AntConc is a bit dense and very much related to corpus linguistics. But the beauty of AntConc is that it shows you negative as well as positive keywords. So a negative keyword is a word that does not appear in somebody's works in comparison to the other works that you are analyzing. So what you do is you upload your text, and the application starts chopping the words, and then you start looking for the most frequently used words, maybe in one writer or in a number of writers, and then you can compare between what's most frequently used here in comparison to what's not been used in the other works. Plus, you can look at adverbs and adjectives and different words, and then do your analysis. So I use this for my Orientalist corpus. I was looking for the word man or farmer. How were the Orientalists describing Arab farmers? What kind of activities were they engaged in? What were the women doing? Who was more joyful? Like which adjectives And we got a lot of really interesting findings. Spatial analysis is the third method, and it basically means mapping. And we know mapping appeared before writing. We constantly like to record what's around us. So in caves, on tablets, then simplified maps, and then religious maps appeared until now we all carry the maps on our mobile phone, right? What happened? Displacement plus the advancement of technology heightened this attention towards movement in space and time, across time. So in the maps, you can use it you need to borrow some techniques from geography and archaeology. You need to have these discussions with your colleagues or read papers in these fields. Just like the fact that in textual analysis, go to the corpus linguists in your department, see how they look at things. It's very, very interesting and inspiring. So nowadays, the spatial turn has witnessed an increased number of these books and publications on how literature and geography or any disciplines are interconnected with geography. With the introduction of freely available digital maps, your students can start mapping. And it's actually what I did in one of my courses, where they were doing interviews with people and taking locations, and we were mapping them. So if we look at, for example, all the novels of Jane Austen, and this was done manually by Moretti, where he would put the beginning of the plot as a triangle and the end as a circle. And we see that the geography of her novels were very, very limited. There's a lot of potential, a lot of beautiful landscapes in England that she could have utilized in her work, but she doesn't. Maybe she didn't need to, but it's just like the way you look at things quantitatively and visually, rather than just read it in a paragraph. This is, of course, very expensive and something that took a lot of time, where the process of printing was mapped over time. So you see, for example, 1 or 2 dots appearing in a specific place, and then how the printing expanded. And with the expansion of printing, you realize that they're close to universities, they're close to paper mills, they're close to fairs, to the Silk Road, and it's a very interesting project. Geography of the Post shows how the post offices first appeared in the west of the US and how they started growing with the growth of maybe gold mines or villages or towns, settlers coming. And it's really, really a very interesting project. And of course, this is the authorial London I told you about, where in the central map of London, you can click and go through these locations and where they appear in the writing. And this is the one where students can post and researchers can actually, every time they find something new, they can link it to the Google map and blog about it. And this is how your project grows. And you invite people from the public who are really very clever and have new insights into something you don't know, because their experiences are really, really important to the growing of your project. Okay, so what do we need if we want to do mapping? If we want to do textual analysis, we need text. In maps, you need text with geolocations. You can't have a map with just metaphors of poetry. It won't be mapping things, right? You'll be textually analyzing rather than mapping. And you need to know, and if you're mapping, you need a legend, right? So you need words. If you're mapping emotions, you need to make sure everyone is using the same word to mean something. If we're looking at moods, we don't want to be confused with the markers that they use on the map and the emotion. Also, you need to make sure that when they're referring to Virginia Woolf, because they're writing everything on a table, they're actually adhering to the spelling of the word and the same spelling of the novel or the play and so on. Okay, these are examples you can look at where the easiest and the freest is Google My Maps. We all can do it now together in 15 minutes. There's Story Map.js. It's similar to Timeline.js. It comes from the same institution. Palladio is not beautiful, but Palladio has the power of showing networks as well as maps. So you can alternate between the visualizations. And of course, I love the Sherlock Holmes project because I love detective stories and locations of where things happened. And I'm going to go to the next method. The final one is network analysis. And I left it at the end because it took me a while to learn it and then to think about it. And then it showed me a lot of interesting things. In network analysis, you're definitely looking at relationships between different categories in your data, your novels, the interviews you had. You need now to think in terms of someone who needs a table and their categories, who are independent, but at the same time, you want to see if there's a connection. Is there an interaction? So, and there are a lot of really easy essays and publications that will walk you through. So the first thing on network is that it's a spider-like thing, right? One is connected to 2, 3, 4, 5. But you see, 3 is not connected to 6 directly, right? I don't want to go into this. I did scientific studies. I love them. But here, the authors and the, sorry if they're tiny, and the books are not connected. But we know we have authors and we have books, or we have different authors. Here we have an author and his book. And then we have another author who also contributed to the book, all right? So we have more and more complicated networks. What does it mean? The easiest way to teach or to think of network is think of if you're driving or if you're taking the train, right? Your city, the cities are connected, air flights are connected. So this is the easiest way. But that does not mean that this visualization is telling you all the story. There are connections, but the burden is on you to explain these connections and push it forward. Okay? So one of the wonderful projects is the Republic of Letters. We know that people, faculty, meetings, international colloquia, all relied on emails and letters, right? But before emails, sorry, they relied on letters. And sometimes these letters were too cryptic. Sometimes they were really personal. Sometimes they were not so threatening. They were maybe, disastrous. So studying these correspondences could be done through a network. And this project shows actually what other information is there in these letters. 6 Degrees of Francis Bacon is a reconstruction of early modern social networks that scholars and students from all over the world can collaboratively expand. So these are social interactions. You can actually create a network from tweets, from things posted on Instagram, and then see the connection. So these are things you can do in your classroom, and I'm sorry that it's faded. I tried my best to get it darker. Whenever there's an interaction between 2 characters, there's a line. So does it mean when we have the same genre, let's say tragedy, we know in tragedy there's a tragic hero and things follow a specific order. Does it mean they're going to have the same network? I don't think so. Okay? If you go to here and you see that the more central a character is, it means the more action he or she does. And the further the character is from the center, it doesn't mean they're not important, but their interaction on stage is not that significant. But you have to do the explanation. If we look at the Game of Thrones, definitely, and a specific part in this project, it shows a network of each section in this wonderful, wonderful book or series of books. Star Wars, there's something about these visualizations that may ask you to think more about what's really happening. So here in network analysis, I'll try to wrap up. You have to have a table. And this is a project we did about the most significant books students read at high school. So students were interviewing friends, their aunts, and we were looking at generations of readers. The book that they read, do they remember? Sometimes they don't know the real exact title, but they remember during the Civil War, they were reading science fiction. And so we said, that's really interesting. What does that mean? And we delved into that specific segment of people who were reading the specific genre. And we looked at our data. We used Palladio, it's free. And we realized that most of the interviews were done with people in private schools. Our data was missing. The public schools were very few. And we realized there were common books that they enjoyed reading. We then went further. We saw that, in Lebanon, you can find schools that teach in French, schools that teach in Armenian, and the Armenians, the readership was very, very interesting, and so on. So this is my final slide. Computing studies, people coming from computing studies and the humanities learn together. People coming from different disciplines learn together, but it's not an easy marriage. The collaboration is always halted by many things you never thought of before. And it's not just money, it's time, it's what your boss expects you to be doing, it's the complications with students and teaching. And COVID, of course, you know what COVID did to us. And something political might happen in Lebanon. We couldn't go to classes. I asked students to map the revolution or whatever was happening on the streets. So it is a call for giving a chance for qualitative methods to embrace quantitative methods. Look for surprises, look for things you didn't expect. You're the expert in your field. Listen to what the other expert is saying. Once a text is digitized, the computer can do many things. They are excellent at counting. They are wonderful in creating visualizations, but you're the one who has to explain, and you're the one who has to push the research forward into new fields. So maybe it's something great, maybe it's not. With AI, we're challenged all over again, but it's a wonderfully exciting time. And AI needs, I think, a number of different lectures, which I'm sure your program has already offered, Roxana. And this is the end of my presentation.
Listening to you once again, I realized, Najla, that this is an area which has been here before AI. It does a lot of stuff that probably AI will also be doing, I think. It will be doing all those analyses without perhaps going into a different app. I am not very sure. But these apps have been in existence for a very long time. And though you have been talking about digital humanities, I absolutely see. I think this is a beautiful way you have put up the different, apps. And I think most of them are free. I think
Yes.
where
Yeah,
the
these are
point
free.
that you,
And more importantly, the learning curve is not high. I mean, stylometry could be high, but you have the IT people in your institution. They will help you. Let them do interpretation, which will enrich yours. You
yeah,
know?
I am not very sure we have that expertise at all campuses, but I do note that you have been referring largely to your own text, that's literature. But I think
Yeah.
there's lots of scope for social sciences, for history, for even economics, the
Yes.
trends, analysis
Yeah.
in different parts of the world.
Yeah.
So the misnomer is humanities, but I think anything that has to do with text, largely, even scientific texts, I think, can be, if you want to find out, analyze their mapping, when what happened, in terms of history or something, or you have a spatial analysis of what was a cluster in certain parts of the world and what
Yes. Yeah.
clusters were happening in other parts of the world. I think this would be very informative for a comparative on a large scale.
Yeah. I,
There
I
would
actually met someone who's doing chemistry and who's doing
Yeah,
and someone who was looking at pollution of the Nile, the River Nile.
Yeah.
And she learned how to do story map JS, how
Oh,
to use it. And she was looking at things that were appearing in the water, the analysis of the water over time and space. So I tried to refer to other disciplines like geography or history and
yeah.
so on, and so on. So don't be discouraged by the fact that it's called humanities. As I
Yeah.
said, the definitions that I showed you are in a way biased because of the way of my lens,
Yeah.
but
Absolutely.
it can mean, yeah.
Yeah, because I know there are lots of faculty over here who are actually not from humanities. So that's a
Yes.
great sign. There was a
Yeah.
question that was answered by one of the, let me see, very informative, very impressive. I have missed some comments. Antcock works on Urdu text. So somebody asked, does it work in Arabic? And yes, it works on all coded languages that as we know of. And so it would work on all languages that start from the left or
Yes.
start from the right. So it works that. So that was answered by one of our own participants. Thank you so much. That was Sufia Sultana from PIFD. And then there are some other comments like how spatial analysis, I think, turn, I do not know, can be used in projects related to cultural geography or
Yes.
especially where there are different layers mixed. Sami Malik,
Yes.
I could not understand, but perhaps you can understand this question. Yes,
Yes. So we
Angela?
have the idea, yeah. So we have the idea of deep mapping where you can map layers. So
Okay.
let's say there's a specific cultural event at a specific time, you give it a layer. Okay? It's a shame that I really need more than 1 hour to explain everything.
I know. I'm
But
sorry
but
for boxing
but
you.
once you click on that marker, it takes
Yeah,
you to that layer. Or once you click on that layer, it takes you to all the events that are related. And digital mapping work tightly with anthropologists and work tightly, and it's all about documenting your culture because that's what deep mapping is. Like you can create different layers of different phenomena and different things happening around you over time and space.
yeah. So it can be done. So let's see
Yes, of
what.
course.
Yeah. So there's another remarkable and extensive Rehana from FC, from another university, National University of Modern Languages. Amara says very informative. Rehana impressive. Correct, Zamura Dhawan. She's from sociology, and she said yes, my students used it in Story Map JS. And
Yeah.
Najla, you're very learned. Thanks a lot, ma'am. You're amazing. And I'm really honored to have your lecture today. Dr. Ruxana, if Endcock applications work for Arabic tests, yes, they work. I hope you got your answer. And thank yous. I'm from
I
Critical Science.
actually, I just want to say that with David Risley, I translated the interface of Voyant into Arabic. It does take many languages. And what's interesting about these applications is that they come from academic institutions. And
Yeah,
so they're always developing, they're always doing new things. So don't presume that if you learned something or taught something to your students, the next semester is going to be the same. There'd be new additions and new features added to them.
yeah, absolutely. And but we need to see how addition of AI is going to, perhaps they'll become faster, they'll become more efficient. I do not know what, but how is AI and digital tools going to map out? It will be a
I
interesting.
think, Roxana, you already have someone who's doing AI and corpus
Yeah,
linguistics. What
yeah,
you do is you take the outcome and you plug it into AI. Or you take what AI is saying and you defeat it, because AI is super, super interesting.
yeah,
And I haven't taught since it happened, So, but I'm very, very interested in experimenting on AI with a colleague, Angie. And as I said, AI depends on linked data, and linked data is a major thing in digital humanities and computing studies. So it's a very, very interesting field.
Yeah. There is a very interesting comment from Punjab University, Sumaira Akram. She is perhaps an MPhil student. She says the scope of this course is beyond anything that we get to study during our semester course in our regular humanities and social sciences. Yeah, that's true. Uh, I I got to familiar with many new topics, such as of today, digital humanities. It has been very informative session. Thank you. Then again, there is from Sahiwal, another PhD, impressive and very good session. University of Punjab, impressive. American University, Cairo, Mariam Usman, happy to have you back. You have been very consistent. Yeah, thank you for this very informative presentation. And there is also then excellent presentation from our own Kashif Shafiq, Bahria University, Mauj Din Bhutto, impressive, informative. And then, of course, there are thanks for you from Namal, that's another university. Excellent presentation, of course, but you need to practice much more on those tools that you, for the purpose you want to use it. And I can tell you the results will be as beautiful as you saw on the screen. Eagerly waiting for the recorded lecture, another from University of Punjab. So you made a hit, Najla, and I somehow am always, like I said, my mind is not digitally wired, but amazing. You can see some of the things that you were able to produce with your analysis, and they're beautiful and exciting. And I know you can start seeing dots that you did not register before, be it text, be it maps, be it anything. So I think it was remarkable. If there are no more questions, there's enough thanks. And I think we have 110. We have requested for your comments, just simple polling, which doesn't. So thank you so much. Please see if you can fill it out. And one final, so good to see you. That's from Kate Roy from Switzerland. Yeah, and she's saying so good to see you, Najla.
I don't leave very easily. I'm going to show you this.
Okay, please do. Please do.
This is Timeline.js. It's the first platform that I used with temporal analysis. I was really tired of reading long essays that were like recycled. Like AI now is going to recycle everything for everyone, right?
Yeah.
I'm joking. But this is like a very exciting platform. It can be used for looking at the career of an author. It can be used for your literature review. You can put an interactive, this is a clip from Narnia, okay? And you can see that you can upload all the other applications, visualizations in it or on it, okay? And you can move in time. And at the same time, you can, for example, look at, you can put visualizations like images, you can put YouTube videos, and believe me, your classroom becomes very different. Like here's this a reading by the poet or the writer. You can also see a map. You can also, this is an assignment where you can actually go into the map and you see the work. You understand what I'm trying to say? And what is also interesting is you can put clips from YouTube. You can actually put clips from the movie, and it's a different way of writing, where you bring multimedia and you're actually publishing in a multimodal mode.
I think there's a lot of potential to move beyond just the textual stuff and move on into a visual. That could be very well be a part of your research and even PhD thesis itself, that it is there, where you put up these images or the analysis that shows up as figures, and diagrams. So I think this is amazing. And one can see that you have a passionate relationship with digital humanities, and it is very, very exciting. So you put in either a text, or you put in a picture, or you put in a command, and it starts.
It takes multimedia in different forms. It takes Yeah. So this is a hyperlink to an external source.
Okay.
All right. So your literature review, when you're acknowledging an author, you can put the link to the paper or to the website, and the reader will see.
They sort of go through it. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Najla. And many of our people are very excited. And I think you really need to practice to get a hang of it. It's another dimension to your research. And this can be very, very powerful and very unique. So thank you so much, Najla. Good to see you, and good to see you, Kate, and so many of our colleagues from